you can see in the suburban sprawl, there's a pattern of low efficiency in using energy and the size of the land, right? This is fairly low efficiency compared to this structure here. So that generates a series of problems. One is more pollution because people need to travel farther away to go into the city to work. And also, sprawl has replaced the substantial acres of natural ecosystems because this is spreading out pattern. And the street design does not favor mass transit or walking and biking because it's cul-de-sac pattern. Do you have the experience? If you go to a neighborhood, I do. I need to use my GPS. Otherwise, I'm not sure I can get out of that neighborhood. The change of traditional grid patterns that allow more direct routes for greater pedestrian access is greatly reduced in the sprawling area. It's curved and disconnected. It doesn't favor the walking. And the reduced public transit use versus increased average vehicle ownership. And that is all connected to higher consumption of gasoline, longer driving miles, and increase of traffic fatality. So why we do this sprawl thing? There's a historic reason in the United States. After the World War II, there's a baby boom. Okay, so the city cannot accommodate these many people. And the moving up and the moving out considered to be upclass thing. And the zoning created to separate residential areas from the pollution of heavy industry also separate people by class, race, ethnicity, and religion. So in certain area of a city, some area of only approved, the mortgage loans were only approved for wealthy people. So the low income people, the people with color, cannot even get a mortgage loan in those areas. It's called restrictive covenants. And the right learning, they draw out the boundary, like which area is only proving what kind of people application, the other areas are not. That's certainly a discrimination. The federal laws used to facilitate that, but they changed. And also the reasons for the sprawling are, one of them is the federal agencies would protect the banks against potential loans on single family homes in suburbs, and the home ownership become more affordable and with favorable tax policies. So all in all, government encourage this kind of sprawling. That's the main reason. And the government spend a lot of money to build up the roadways to facilitate people to transport from suburb to city to work. And then encourage the ownership of the cars. So the last half of the 20th century so the last 70 years saw the 8 times as much government spending on roads as on mass transit. Okay, so that's a government thing also leading to the sprawl. The consumption is not efficient. Okay, so the consumer culture is more space for amenities and material goods. To compare, in 1950s, for 3.5 people per household, this is the square footage. And today it increased like more than twofold. And the shopping space in the United States is also twice as other country in the world. So people have more space living, have more space shopping, and that causes a decrease of the efficiency using energy and the space. So that's the first part of my lecture. The second part is what smart strategic planning we can do. So who decides urban planning? That's the first issue. And most metropolitan areas have hundreds of political jurisdictions. So one big issue for land planning is who is the boss. Okay, who decides the land planning? It could be city-wise, could be regional-wise, could be state-wise. Somebody has to be the boss, but usually there is more than one boss, and the people argue and fight with each other, and their zones cannot mix. That causes the planning issue. One good example is Oregon State. In 1973, they passed a law called Senate Bill 100. And that kind of decided the state took over the planning. So all the city and the county have to prepare a comprehensive plan in accordance with a set of general state goals. So everybody have to listen to the state. That's the reason they are very successful. And urban planning is the development of guidelines to shape the future of an urban area. So for future planning, we got to be very, very careful. And we want to avoid as many changes as possible in the future. So this requires the planners have very thoughtful plans and have very good insights into the future, which is a difficult thing. And if it's not well planned, we suffer from various issues like transportation, vacant center of the city, higher infrastructure and energy costs, loss of open space and farmlands, pollution problem, floodplain problem, wetland misuse, etc., etc. So if it's not a good planning, there are a bunch of bad consequences. And you have to spend more money to fix it. And it's way too expensive, way more expensive than the planning in the first place. So the first issue I want to talk about is the traffic. If you design communities for cars, you get more cars. If you design them for people, you get walkable, livable communities. This is how Americans get to work. Most of them are driving by themselves. And the problem is, no matter how you expand the roads and the highways, you cannot solve the traffic jams. So please watch this 1-minute video again. This is really fun. I love this video. It's very short, very humorous, very interesting. So please watch this again, this 1-minute video, and understand the Jevons paradox more. And think about why you expanding the lanes on the highway do not actually solve the traffic jams. So for urban transportation planning, we have 4 goals. One is conserve energy and land resources. This is really important. If you eat up all the land and leave no space for the wildlife, for the plants, for the trees, for the natural environment, eventually they take a revenge on us, right? And the second goal is provide efficient and inexpensive transportation. Oh, that is important. Reduce pollution, hopefully. Transportation corridors and the parking facilities must be included. And the relationship between transit and density. Now we are facing a dilemma. We know the advantage of mass transit, but it only happens in the highly populated area. Okay, this is calculated through decades of data. You gotta have enough people living close to the bus stop to build a bus line. Otherwise, you probably spend more time running the bus than transporting people. Okay, I will talk about this in the next section.